Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be diving into a detailed comparison between two iconic pressings of LA Woman by The Doors. First, we'll be looking at the UHQR release and the original first pressing release from 1971, often referred to as the OG pressing. Now, both of these are highly regarded by audiophiles, but they do differ quite a lot in the listening experience, and we're going to break it down on this episode. Okay, so let's talk about the testing methodology. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to do a blind test on this one, so I did my own kind of what I call non-bias testing, where I'll take one of the records and listen to side A from start to end, and then I'll switch to record number 2, and then I'll listen to side A and then B, and then I'll finish with the first record, side B. And this allows me, why I call it the non-bias comparison, it's because I really believe that when you're doing a record comparison, you tend to pick up things that are left out. And you start creating a baseline based on what you just heard, and now you're comparing everything you hear against what you just heard. So I'm constantly switching up what I call the subconscious bias. So hopefully that makes sense. I think it's a fair way to do it when you don't have somebody that could do a blind test for you, which is definitely in this case. Okay, so let's start out by talking about the different pressings here, and I believe the first thing you're going to notice right off your bat is the difference in presentation. The UHQR comes in a box. It is what is called a clamshell box, so it kind of opens up from the side and everything is tucked inside here. You do have to be careful opening this box, because if you open it up, you have a good chance that everything's just going to fall out. So what you want to make sure you do is kind of open it up flat on the table, because otherwise you could be in for a good surprise. Now, the box set is different from the normal UHQR. This is the first UHQR in the new box set, which is noticeably thinner than the typical wooden dowel UHQR box. Picture is kind of printed onto the box here, and you could feel like it's just kind of stickered on, if you will. It feels like it's actually after the fact. It's not printed directly onto the box, which kind of makes sense. Inside of the box, of course, you have your record. I did change out the sleeves. I do that every time I clean out a record. They do give you the UHQR sort of certificate telling you about the limited pressings. You have the technical specifications, tells you all about the process of making the album, an ad slip booklet thing, and then you do get this. This is really nice. This is a multi-page booklet with photos of the band, some listening notes here, some stories from the band, an interview. You have a photo of the master tape, and of course you have the credits of the album on the back. This is a nice add-in which I think adds to the appeal. Now, this is the actual full cover. Unlike some of the box sets where maybe you just get a print of the cover, they actually do give you a real cover. So if the box is a challenge for you, you can simply put the record inside of the album cover, put a nice sleeve on this, put it on your wall, and just take the box and put it on display or put it in a closet somewhere. Whatever works for you. This does come like this in order, where you have this yellow insert which has the picture of Jesus Christ on a cross here, and then you have the Doors LA Woman with the 3D texture, nice clear transparent background. And the concept here, and this is how it is on the original album, is that the yellow insert goes in between here, and what happens when you do that, you'll actually make the window yellow. See? Pretty cool little gimmick, especially from 1971, right? I really like this cover. I think this cover is really nice. It's high quality. Overall, the packaging on the UHQR, it's a good presentation. The box, miles is going to vary on the box. Some people are going to really like the new format. Some people aren't. And that is compared to this. This is a 1971 first pressing. This is the OG. You could tell all it is just the album with the insert. And this is how it came. So there's no box set, there's no slip-ons, there's no pamphlet, if you will, or listening notes. That's special to the box set. But you do have the window effect here, so you can see where that idea originated from. And then the insert does have the same graphic on it. And you can tell, just because we're going to get into the listening notes here in a moment in the comparison, that my copy of this pressing is spotless. It is what I would call a near mint or mint minus pressing here. It's very clean. Doesn't look like it's been played very often. I don't play it very often. It's never been abused. This is actually a pretty pristine record in the collection itself, and I'm very grateful to have this. Okay, so let's now get into the actual details of the pressing, and let's start with the UHQR pressing. Now, this one brings a modern twist to the classic album. It's mastered from the original analog tapes and is pressed on 200-gram Clarity vinyl. And let me tell you, this version is all about precision and clarity. The mids and the lows are deeper. There is noticeable emphasis on the guitar, which gives it a more contemporary, studio-like feel. Each instrument stands out with incredible separation, and you might even find that the soundstage feels a little bit wider than the original in some parts. Now, for those of you that love a clean, refined sound where every detail is carefully rendered, the UHQR is going to be a top choice. Jim Morrison's vocals are slightly more forward, adding an extra layer of distinctiveness and clarity. The drums and the bass are tight, controlled, and give a punchy, impactful presentation. However, it is worth mentioning that some might find this pressing less dynamic and warmer in the mid-range compared to others like the AP45 and the DCC, especially even compared to the OG. Kinda, and I'm gonna get to that in a moment. If you're after a focused, intimate listening experience with fewer background noises and more polished sound, the UHQR certainly delivers. Now, let's talk about the OG from 1971. This version offers something quite different. It's got a brighter, more energetic sound that feels like you're right there in a live performance. It has a raw, organic vibe with a pronounced emphasis on higher frequencies in the vocals. Morrison's vocals comes through louder with less restraint, capturing the emotional intensity of the original recording. The drums and the bass aren't as forward as they are in the UHQR, but they contribute to a broader, airier soundstage, almost hitting 180 degrees in certain tracks. Now, where the OG pressing really shines is in conveying the feel of the original recording session. There is a tangible sense of space with little background noises. In certain cases, you can hear the band members talking while they're jamming out, encouraging each other to play harder, making comments like woo, wee, and all that other kind of things. And there's more room, reverb that adds to that classic rock atmosphere. You can almost picture yourself in the Doors workshop in Los Angeles back in 1971, watching the magic happen like live. It's a great experience. And while it may lack some of the precision and refinement of the UHQR, it more than makes up for it with the livelier, foot-tapping experience that many fans, I think, are going to find engaging and authentic. I will share with you that on the OG, it was the only time where I was actually moving in my chair to the music. I caught myself several times like moving my head or tapping my toe to the beat of the music. I didn't have that happen on the UHQR. And I'm not saying that the UHQR pulled me away from that experience. I think that the UHQR is so detailed. I got caught up in focusing on all of the detail, focusing on the instruments and trying to figure out where they're placed on the soundstage. Whereas on the OG, the music, the drums and the guitar and everything just kind of blend together a little bit, really allowing the whole music to come together. It's like you have the vocals and the music is just kind of supporting it in the background, where everything is standout and pronounced on the UHQR. I feel like everything on the UHQR too is really tight. It's really everything just kind of cuts. Like there's a beat, you hear it and it's over. There's no tail, there's no drag of the sound that carries over. Whereas in the OG, there's this drag of the sound. Like I said in earlier, the UHQR to me felt more studio-like, the classic record more live classic rock-like. There is also something I find very interesting. I listened to the UHQR first, that was side A, and then I put on the OG, side A. And I noticed that the OG felt louder. It felt audibly louder, but I also felt like it got really quiet at times, and then really loud, and then really quiet, and then really loud. And I'm not saying the sound was waving, I'm just saying the dynamics felt a lot more drastic swings on the album. So I busted out a little dB meter. I have an app on my phone, it's a decibel meter, and I put it on the table next to me. And I went back and I grabbed the UHQR and I played the first 3 tracks on the record, and then I did the same with the OG, and the results were actually pretty surprising. On the UHQR, I got a reading of max of 75 dB with an average of 69. On the OG, I got a max of 75 with an average of 60. That's 9 decibel difference on average. So that tells me that my ears were hearing what the dB meter was hearing, was that there was a drastic difference of the UHQR compared to the OG. So what's going on here? I'm not really sure. I can tell you that the UHQR has more pronounced mids and low end than it does on the high end. And I think the OG having really almost at times ear-piercing high end, and then still having some bass and everything else supporting it, just gives it more of a drastic swing. But overall, the volume's the same. I don't know. More research to be done there. All right, so you're probably wondering if you can hear the difference yourself, especially if you don't have an OG. Well, I am going to attempt to record Riders on the Storm, both the UHQR and the OG version. Now, it's not going to be a very sophisticated way of recording. I'm just going to simply put one of these microphones that I have in the room and hit record. I did try to record directly from the headphone out port of my amplifier, and I was a little bit unsuccessful doing so. Either the sound was really low or the audio quality just wasn't listenable. There's still more figuring out I need to do there to get that to you. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt just putting a mic in the room and hitting record. It's not going to be the best way to demonstrate the quality, but what I'm hoping it will demonstrate is the differences. If I'm successful, there'll be a link in the video description below. All right, so what are the key differences between these two albums? Well, in the terms of sound quality, the UHQR is going to give you more detail, clearer sound with deeper lows and better separation of the instruments. The OG pressing, on the other hand, is going to give you brighter, more dynamic and organic presentation that many may feel captures the essence of a live rock performance. At least that was my take of it. When it comes to the vocals and instruments, the UHQR brings Jim Morrison's vocals a bit more forward with a clear and pronounced articulation. Meanwhile, the OG version has his voice is louder, more emotionally intense, and less restraint, which some listeners might find more compelling. And if you're talking about feel and atmosphere, the UHQR feels like a polished studio recording with fewer extraneous noises, while the OG pressing captures that live, energetic feel, complete with all the background noises from the band and the room reverb that just make it sound like a genuine 1971 rock performance. Okay, now about the pressing quality. The UHQR is on 200 gram clarity vinyl, which means you're going to get a quiet, clean surface with minimum distortion. The OG, though it can be a challenge to find it in pristine condition, is often praised for its natural analog warmth and three-dimensional sound. It's fantastic if you could find a clean copy, and that is a challenge. So which one should you choose? Well, honestly, Both pressings are exceptional in their own right. The UHQR is fantastic for those who prefer a modern, clean, and precise sound, especially with its focus on the mid-range clarity and instrument separation. But if you're someone who loves the raw energy and dynamic presence of like a live rock performance with that vintage classic rock sound, the OG pressing is going to be more up your alley. In the end, it all comes down to your personal preference. Do you lean more towards the detailed studio-like presentation, or do you crave that vibrant, energetic, and authentic rock experience? For me, if I'm gonna listen to The Doors, it's gonna be the OG. This is what I'm gonna put on. I love the rock. The 70s rock sound is what I want when I listen to a 70s rock band, and this OG captures it perfectly. It is what I expect from a rock record. However, if I have somebody who comes over that's a Doors fan, that's deeply familiar with LA Woman, or if I want to showcase how great vinyl can actually sound and how different it can be, or I want to talk about how mastering can make a difference and how you can still get amazing studio-like quality sound from old analog tapes, there is no better example than LA Woman on the UHQR. This is a fantastic example of how you can take a old analog tape and make it sound like it's a brand new recording. Clean up all the reverb, clean up all the noise, add tightness to the instruments, add more low end to it, and re-release it so it makes it sound like it was recorded yesterday. I mean, when you think about it in that way, it's truly mind-boggling. The fact that it's half the price of a mint or near mint copy of the OG also to me makes an easy buying decision. I don't know if I would go seek out the OG if I bought the UHQR. The UHQR is definitely a cheaper way to get into an audiophile pressing, but I don't know. I have the OG, so therefore that's what I'm going to play. So there you go, that's the breakdown. If you had a chance to listen to both, let me know which one you prefer in the comments below, especially if I get that audio clip sorted out. You can go ahead and tell me if you hear a difference between the two. And if you got this far, go ahead and give me a like. Let me know that you got this far. And if you like album reviews and talking about comparisons of OG and some of the new audiophile pressings, subscribe and hit that notify button so you don't miss a new review or new comparison. In the meantime, guys, I'm gonna grab myself a cup of joe and I'm gonna see you on the next video.